I'm expecting things to crash really hard. Um, it's really hard. It's like kind of like playing chicken with a freight train.
Mhm.
If you want to time the top, right now, the risk is high, meaning that the liquidity, the buyers, the spot buyers there isn't keeping up with effectively the price action that's happening. So the risk is high for a drawdown, and it could turn on us. I think the shape of the economy is not that great. I think we're due for a pullback.
Willy Woo shares his updated crypto market prediction, explaining how the upcoming cycle will differ and why Bitcoin is likely to experience a crash before skyrocketing in 2025. As a Bitcoin maximalist, Wu emphasizes that Bitcoin already represents 1% of the world's wealth. When BlackRock emerged as a key player with its iShares Bitcoin ETF, he became convinced that Bitcoin was on a direct path to $100,000 per coin. Thanks to BlackRock's massive influence, Wu believes Bitcoin has reached a point of permanence, solidifying its role as the gateway for large-scale institutional investments. He expects growing interest from sovereign wealth funds, major corporations, and even government. Now, let's dive into Wu's latest interview as he shares his Bitcoin outlook, price prediction, and where the market is headed in 2025.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
BlackRock was the big one in this cycle, to get the blessing of Larry Fink. What is it, 10 trillion BlackRock manages, something like that. You're not going to get fired to recommend Bitcoin. Asset managers would buy it themselves and not recommend it because it was risky for their career. Now I see, CIOs of banks not only talking about Bitcoin as an investment, but they're talking about it as the next world reserve currency, which is crazy. You didn't see that last cycle. So it's safe to talk about it, and recommend. So there was a lot of buying on the underlying spot Bitcoin. There was a lot of bets coming in on the tail end of the bull market. I think we touched 70,000 for a second time. And then the amount of paper bets on Bitcoins went through the roof. So you don't, in that phase of the market, you don't actually need to sell your Bitcoins, right? If you want to exit, if you're like an investor, a sophisticated investor, you wouldn't sell your Bitcoins. You would just hedge them out and sell shorts on your Bitcoins. And it turned out that you would collect something around 20% annualized yield by netting out to cash. And that's actually what happened. And that tipped the market. And then, of course, the weakness in the underlying crypto side of things. It turned out the bottom of the bear market of 2022 was just after the FTX collapse, and that was when all the paper evaporated. They stopped their shorts, and a lot of Bitcoins got scooped up off of the exchanges. Some of that was probably custody risk, but I think a lot of it was bought up, and that marked effectively the start of January 2023 bull market. And the interesting thing about this cycle right now is, of course, spot is back in, right? We've had the ETFs come in finally, and that has allowed the institutional type and also high net worth types to buy the ETF through traditional, TradFi exchanges. And so where previously, if you wanted exposure to Bitcoin, there was no real, you had to do offshore exchanges, really sort of grey water, sort of regulated markets. It's sort of regulated, but now you've got, so you could only get long exposure through the CME. Now with the spot, that's brought a lot of spot dominance back into the game, and that's much more bullish for Bitcoin. If you think about bets on Bitcoin, that's effectively debasing the currency, right? Because if I am wanting to buy Bitcoin and I have to buy spot like before futures, then someone very, very rare in the world who has Bitcoin has to sell it to me, and they've got to be convinced to sell it to me. But with the invention of futures, someone can say, "I'll take that bet with you," and they can sell me that exposure. So that's quite a bearish pressure. It's a debasement on the 21 million finite supply. And so with spot dominance, it's much more bullish. And, so far, this cycle has been, I still consider we're in a reaccumulation cycle. People think we're bullish, but actually underlying it in the phase we're in, it's kind of that. If you remember, we chopped around for a long, long time, around 10,000 in the last cycle before things went ballistic. We're in that phase of the market, but it's skewed bullish because of the ETF and MicroStrategy. So that's where we are now. And of course, a lot of the regulatory risk around the SEC is evaporated effectively this week with Gensler leaving office. And of course, we've got our first president that is pro Bitcoin and crypto, but Bitcoin, that's important. So yeah, and a lot of talk around the strategic reserve. Right now, there seems to be a lot of buying of risk assets. I'm not sure, I really don't know. Like, I think that Bitcoin now is traded like any other macro asset, $2 trillion, it's big enough. It's not like it in its own little bubble in its own cycle now, and we are orbiting macro. So if that turns, Bitcoin will turn as well. And of course, when macro goes up or down, Bitcoin's very accelerated. It's like that on steroids. So but long term over the next 4-8 years, of course, it's going to continue to outperform every single asset class on the planet.
The growing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media reflects a broader recognition of its value. However, Willy Woo argues that this is just the beginning. He compares Bitcoin's early years to the current surge in mainstream interest and investment, emphasizing the spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs as a major milestone in the financial ecosystem. Woo also predicts that BlackRock, under the leadership of Larry Fink, will play a pivotal role in securing regulatory approval for a Bitcoin ETF. He believes this move will further cement Bitcoin's long-term significance as an asset and strengthen its position as a hedge against currency devaluation.
I'm expecting things to crash really hard sooner or later, and it's really hard. It's like kind of like playing chicken with a freight train. If you want to time the top, right now, I model this stuff and quantitatively. The risk is high, meaning that the liquidity, the buyers, the spot buyers there isn't keeping up with effectively the price action that's happening. So the risk is high for a drawdown, and it could turn on us. I think the shape of the economy is not that great. I think, it's really hard to tell. Like if we're talking over the next, what does it look like over the next year or two? I think we're due for a pullback.
I wanted to ask you about Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy. He's planning on announcing yet another buy, I think, for Inauguration Day. So what do you think about his strategy?
Very clever. It's very clever, and I think only a veteran of public markets and a CEO that had a generation of understanding what you can do with a public company could have created this, because really it's clever, right? He's created effectively a 2x leverage instrument on Bitcoin, and if you look at the risks to liquidation, he's bet the company on it. It's the thing is, he's only liquidated if Bitcoin fails to gain value over the course of around, let's say, 6 to 7 years. If it doesn't gain value, then the convertible debt, they won't convert to equity. Therefore, he'll have to sell Bitcoins to then pay the debt back. I've like for the next probably 10 years, he's going to be very, very safe from that. We've never ever seen Bitcoin drop below that in a consistent way. Like even if it wicks down, it's fine. He's not liquidated, right?
Right.
It's got to be 6 to 7 years later. These investors are not converting to equity, and then he's got to pay them out in cash. So it's super clever. I mean, genius. Yeah, it's a good bit of engineering, I would say.
Willy Woo challenges traditional macroeconomic metrics, arguing that they are often manipulated to shape a specific narrative. He points to labor statistics and inflation figures, which he believes are selectively measured to produce desired outcomes rather than accurately reflecting the true state of the economy. In this environment, Bitcoin stands out as an independent alternative, free from the distortions of conventional economic systems. Wu also highlights how major corporations like Apple, Amazon, and Google will leverage their long-standing industry connections to quickly acquire large amounts of Bitcoin through spot ETFs, bypassing the complexities of purchasing the asset directly. This imbalance underscores the disruptive potential of cryptocurrencies within traditional finance. As the economic landscape evolves rapidly, Wu urges investors to recognize Bitcoin's value and seize the opportunity to secure a stronger financial future. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.